Senator Todd, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And I rise to give full support to the passage of this appropriations bill before us in this year of our Lord 2018. And to congratulate this Democratic Labour Party administration for steering the ship of state in the right direction to ensure that our country stays afloat, that it's buoyant amidst the global waves of turmoil internationally in terms of economic challenges in our source market for tourism, be it in Britain with Brexit, Europe, the Caribbean, and so on, Madam President. So, Madam President, I must say that I was rather disappointed by the presentation of the opposition Senator Walcott, because, Madam President, I was, I share the same alma mater as Senator Walcott, Lodge School, and our motto is Possunt Quia. It's the Latin from Virgil, I understand, from the Latin scholars. Possunt Quia, posse videntur, which translates to they can because they think they can. So President Obama for the United States, his yes we can term, what he would have borrowed from us. So that we Lodge students pride ourselves, Madam President, in staying the course and giving our all to whatever we do. So I was really disappointed, Madam President. I was taking copious notes when Senator Walcott spoke, and I really expected, as the lead spokesperson for the opposition in this very important exercise, the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the government on the eve of a general election, that as the representative of the opposition Barbados Labour Party, that they would have utilized their full 2 hours to elucidate to the public their views. They criticize our estimates, and they're given an opportunity through their representatives in this August chamber to present an alternative to the public. But the Honorable Senator Walcott disappointed us tremendously, could barely speak for half of the 2 hours allotted, Madam President, and really the public will be the judge in the final analysis of that disappointing performance, and keep the Barbados Labour Party in the opposition so they can really win and come again, as they say. So, Madam President, in the first part of my presentation, I will seek to address some of the criticisms of Senator Walcott in his short address to this chamber, Madam President. For example, the whole issue of the Barbados Sustainable Recovery Plan 2018 that we are debating along with this estimates exercise. As I said, I took copious notes, and I remember Senator Walcott referring to this rescue plan as pathetic, quote unquote, Madam President. A very, very strong term, Madam President. And I think that this, Madam President, and I think that this is a slap in the face of the whole tripartite social partnership, arrangement which Barbados has been noted for internationally as, an exercise in good governance, full participation, dialogue, consultation with social partners, Madam President. So I was rather disappointed to hear such criticism of this tripartite effort to sort of put Barbados first. And I believe, Madam President, frankly, that the opposition is feeling left out. They feel irrelevant to this whole exercise, and we are seeing the symptoms of their lack of buy-in and support to this national effort. And Madam President, I've said repeatedly, and I reiterate today, that an opposition does not have to oppose for opposing's sake. We've heard Senator Sir Trevor Carmichael in his presentation this evening in relation to the challenges with the sewage, saying put Barbados first effectively, and when visitors or others express concern, give them the assurance that it is well and we will find a solution to this as a people. Because if we are just using narrow partisan approaches to gain narrow political points by criticizing and all on the international media, social network, trying to pull Barbados down, we are, as a people, suffering, Madam President, and I frown upon such approaches of the opposition, Madam President, to make Barbados seem as though it's the worst thing ever, Madam President. That would scare away investors, Madam President. That would scare away tourists, so that the people, whether B, D, or N, the people, the young, the vulnerable, in the final analysis, the Barbadian people will suffer. And that is not responsible approach to an opposition that wants to present itself as an alternative government, Madam President. And this is in contrast, Madam President, to the approach of the Democratic Labour Party when we were in opposition. I remember the late David John Howard Thompson as opposition leader at a public meeting in St. Lucie when the Barbados Labour Party was in office, and we had the threat of the OECD in terms of blacklisting in the international business sector. David Thompson, as opposition leader, putting Barbados first on behalf of the Democratic Labour Party, said the Democratic Labour Party opposition gives support to the Barbados government in its fight to ensure that the good name of Barbados in the international business sector is not sullied. That is responsible opposition, mature opposition, putting Barbados first. And that is why the people of Barbados embraced us and returned us to government in 2008, as they will keep us in government after the next general elections, Madam President. And Madam President, I have been fortunate after the last general election to serve as the Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, working in the tripartite social partnership exercise. I am one of the handful of ministers who represent the cabinet, represent the government, along, of course, with senior civil servants, be it the Chief Labor Officer, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Civil Service, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labor, Permanent Secretary, Prime Minister's Office, Chief Personnel Officer, and others, working, we serve representing the government on the subcommittee of the social partnership that meets monthly, generally speaking, ably chaired by the Minister of Labor, who sits in this August chamber, Madam President. So I've seen the work of the social partnership on a regular basis, and I see the commitment of the social partners, be they government, be they the labor movement, be they the private sector, in putting Barbados first in all of the challenges that arise from time to time, including the economic issues. So I've seen them commit to meeting in the various groupings to come up with this comprehensive Barbados Sustainable Recovery Plan. And to hear the opposition leading spokesman call this effort pathetic is indeed pathetic, Madam President. And really, the Honorable Senator should really, at the earliest opportunity, apologize to the people of Barbados for such callous disregard for this tripartite approach to governance in our country, Madam President. Madam President, I further serve, Madam President, as part of this social partnership exercise. I was asked in the last year or so to chair the protocol drafting committee. Again, a tripartite subgrouping of the social partnership represented by the, comprising, I should say, government representatives, trade union representatives, and the private sector. And we've been meeting weekly, practically for over a year to, flesh out the various issues with regard to a successor to the current protocol. And I would wish to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Patrick Frost, a retired trade union leader, my former teacher, English teacher at the Lodge School. At Toya Lodge School, we produce good people. And I must congratulate publicly Mr. Patrick Frost for really taking up the mantle to actually come up with a draft document based on the decisions taken at our weekly meetings, and this has been now circulated to the stakeholders in the social partnership for comment, Madam President. So, as I said, I'm not speaking from a theoretical point of view, but from a practical, hands-on experience of the tremendous work of the social partnership, Madam President. So Roy Trotman would have worked assiduously representing the Barbados Workers Union on that protocol drafting committee. Madam President, also, Sir Roy would have mentioned in his presentation the National Initiative for Service Excellence, which is a not-for-profit private company, which is, again, tripartite in nature in terms of the composition of the board of directors. And I serve as government's principal director on the board of the National Initiative for Service Excellence. And I can assure Sir Roy and the public that the Democratic Labour Party government continues to pledge not just in words, but actually in terms of direct funding on an annual basis to the operation, to support the operation of the National Initiative for Service Excellence, as indicated in the current estimates of revenue and expenditure, where in sub-program 7,000 within the Prime Minister's office under General Management and Coordination Services, subsection 315, grants to non-profit organizations, you would see listed in this document that for the upcoming financial year 2018-2019, government is actually committed to providing $1.232 million to support the work of the National Initiative for Service Excellence, which is not a decrease from our support in recent years, including the current financial year ending the end of March this year, Madam President. And I really take this opportunity to salute the Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Kim Tudor, and her team of dedicated staff at the National Initiative for Service Excellence, and of course the entire board of NICE for the dedicated dedicated commitment to service excellence, promoting service excellence in our country through the 100 improvements in 100 days, where we've been able to get buy-in from government agencies such as the Ministry of Health, the labor movement, private sector companies, both large and small, such as Harris Paints, Wabisco, and others, where we are encouraging best practices in terms of their business operations from management down to line staff, where they are frank in identifying deficiencies and seeking to effect these 100 improvements in 100 days. And coming out of this exercise, we've had Harris Paints, for example, developing a new brand of paint that has earned them millions of dollars, Madam President. Wabisco won in 1 year, Madam President, and the BADMC has been able, as a result of participating in this exercise, to come up with this very popular cassava mash, which is now being added to the wheat flour in the production of the commercial production of the Purity Junior Sandwich Loaf, thereby reducing the import bill in terms of quantities of wheat flour that would otherwise have had to be imported from abroad, and coming up with other innovations such as the cassava sorbet, an ice cream derivative using cassava as a main ingredient, thereby stimulating, Madam President, the agricultural sector in terms of increased production of cassava to supply this increasing demand in the food business, Madam President. So the national initiative National Initiative for Service Excellence is really working assiduously and getting the cooperation of both the government sector, the Barbados Revenue, for example, Barbados Revenue Authority, for example, recently would have, approached NICE and actually has been able to work with us in terms of the training of their frontline staff, so that, the public as a whole can see improved customer service by these government agencies. And private companies have been able to utilize the services of NICE to train their staff, and I've attended some of their sessions, and it's a really collaborative effort where management and all levels of staff work together to improve customer service and therefore improve the viability and profitability of their particular enterprise, Madam President. And we've also worked, Madam President, with small micro enterprises. I remember in St. Michael Northeast, in the Hoddesdale Turning area, we were able to work with a small entrepreneur involved in a pet fish operation. And we were able to garner the assistance of larger private sector companies to provide materials, building materials, and we were able to refurbish that store and transform it into a very attractive operation, motivating the owner, who was able then to win one of the major awards of NICE in our annual gala award ceremony, Madam President. Even snow cone vendors, Madam President, we were able to train them and get, again, buy-in and support from larger companies that were able to adopt these snow cone vendors and provide them with attractive uniforms and paint their carts, and we taught them, best practices in terms of food handling and so on, so that their product then would be more attractive to locals and tourists alike, Madam President. So we are very serious about service excellence, but I must take this opportunity, Madam President, to invite the private sector to match government's annual contribution to support the operations of the National Initiative for Service Excellence, because practically since the first year when this was formed over a decade ago, with the private sector coming to government and asking us to match their contribution to support the daily operations of NICE, we haven't had that tangible outlay of financial support from the private sector on an annual basis, Madam President. So we look forward to the private sector stepping up to the plate and making their financial contribution to ensure that the work of NICE can grow from strength to strength. Nonetheless, Madam President, the Board of NICE and management, we've been innovative, and we've been coming up with new products, such as a new national rating system in which government and private agencies, large, medium, and small enterprises, can actually subject themselves to yearly assessment in terms of best practices in terms of service excellence, so that then if they meet the necessary benchmark criteria, would be then given an official plaque indicating that that NICE has assessed them and they have reached the necessary certification, that they have reached that minimum standard in terms of service excellence that they can display on their walls for the public to view. And this is very attractive to the various private and public sector agencies in our country who want to demonstrate that they are actually committed to service excellence, Madam President, and we look forward to this being a very useful revenue stream to reduce the dependence of the organization on funding from the stakeholders, Madam President. Also, we have walking programs where individual members of the public can actually take courses conducted by the committed members of staff of the National Initiative for Service Excellence. And I should say, in closing this aspect, that Cabinet took a decision some time ago, very recently, to encourage the National Productivity Council and the National Initiative for Service Excellence to actually work closely together to, reduce duplication and to be more efficient and, of course, effect cost savings. And consistent with this decision of Cabinet, we've actually been engaged, the two agencies, the National Productivity Council and the National Initiative for Service Excellence, in a form of functional cooperation. Both boards met together just a few weeks ago, and NICE will actually be sharing the same physical space as the National Productivity Council in Baobab Towers to, as I said, reduce the duplication and effect cost savings in terms of reduced rent and so on. But the work of both agencies will continue apace, Madam President. And all of this is consistent with the competitiveness program, which was sort of mooted by the private sector, and government gave full support and entered into American Development Bank concessionary loan, in which this competitiveness process project was actually rolled out over a few years. It's more or less completed now, and coming out of that, consultants were able to come up with competitiveness agencies that would actually enhance the work of the social partnership. Competitive Commission, where we envisage, for example, that the Secretariat of the Social Partnership will be strengthened in terms of human resources, so that the work of the social partnership can be propelled and be more effective going forward, Madam President. So, Madam President, as I was saying, I was rather disappointed with the approach of the opposition in terms of Senator Walcott's presentation. So, for example, Senator Walcott in his presentation was very critical of the collection of garbage by the state. But let me just remind Senator Walcott and the opposition that I remember I was sitting in the other place prior to the last general election, and the opposition at the highest level, the opposition Barbados Labour Party, was actually promoting far and wide across this country that Barbadians needed to pay for the collection of garbage. Does Senator Walcott remember that, Madam President? That was the approach of the Barbados Labour Party. So what happened in the lead up to the last general election is that the Barbados Labour Party spilled the beans, as it were, and let the public know that they had a more right-wing, conservative approach to governance, Madam President. They talked a lot about Barbados having too many entitlement programs and the need to cut government expenditure, Madam President, and the public did not smile upon that and kept them in opposition. So the problem is now that the advisors of the Barbados Labour Party are telling them that don't make that mistake again. Don't let the public know before the general election your alternatives. Stay quiet. But the public will not be fooled. We have seen through that, and we will keep the Barbados Labour Party in opposition where they deserve, Madam President, where they deserve to be, Madam President. So, Madam President, SBRC, for example, I remember attending soon after we regained the government in 2008, the official opening of SBRC, that's the refuge recycling program at Vaucluse. And, Madam President, that SBRC arrangement between government and private sector, that was primarily in the main negotiated by the Barbados Labour Party before the Democratic Labour Party assumed office in 2008, Madam President. And coming out of that now, tens of millions of dollars every year the Sanitation Service Authority has to look for to support that operation, Madam President. So the public must remember that, but the Barbados Labour Party will try to blame this Democratic Labour Party administration, which inherited that arrangement, Madam President. But luckily, there are options available down the road, option of the government to purchase, and all of these options are being looked at to effect savings down the road, Madam President. So when taxes have to be levied, it's because the Barbados Labour Party would have made that arrangement skewed against the government, whereas they said tens of millions of dollars have to be paid to the principals of that private sector company when the year comes, Madam President. So the money has to be found somewhere, Madam President. But of course, as I said, the Barbados Labour Party before the 2030 general election were hinting strongly that if they were to be returned to government, Barbadians would have had to pay directly for the collection of garbage, refuse, Madam President. So you see, the pieces of the puzzle are all falling into place. We are seeing through the smokes and mirrors of the Barbados Labour Party, Madam President. Madam President, the Senator Walcott also had the audacity to talk about the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Madam President. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Senator Walcott was the Minister of Health when the Barbados Labour Party was in office prior to the 2008 general election, Madam President. I remember, Madam President, as the candidate for the Democratic Labour Party in the city of Bridgetown at that time, the Barbados Labour Party were actually giving us a hard time in terms of being able to tour as the opposition the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, with all the public, outcry about poor service, long waiting at the accident emergency department, Madam President. We had a lot of the medical procedures and tests had to be outsourced because the electrical system at the hospital was poorly maintained by the Barbados Labour Party administration. Senator Walker would know that Senator Walker would have been Minister of Health at some point during that 40-year period when the Barbados Labour Party was in office, Madam President. We would have seen as we went into the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, along the corridors, crates of equipment, medical equipment that could not be installed because of the electrical challenges there, Madam President. And when we eventually were able to tour as an opposition the Barbados, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital prior to the 2008 general election, we saw this for ourselves, Madam President. We also talked with the people in the laboratories where reagents, vital reagents necessary to effect the various medical tests, be they blood tests, for the PSA and cholesterol and all the different medical tests, Madam President, reagents in short supply, Madam President, when the Barbados Labour Party was in office. Cafeteria shut down for years, Madam President, so doctors, patients, other staff, visitors had to go all over the place to get something to eat, Madam President. But the Democratic Labour Party, with limited resources, since assuming office in 2008, we were able to address these issues one by one. So now we have a state-of-the-art cafeteria, air conditioned. You have a wide variety of hot meals, Madam President. Rabbit meat, some nice turkey wing. You name it, Madam President. Macaroni pie, buffet style, Madam President. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm talking, the staff at the QEH, they have to work 24/7 in terms of the operation of the QEH, Madam President. So we care about those people. Satellite television, several monitors, so those who want to watch the news can watch one monitor. Those who want to engaging in sport and entertainment, a modern equipment, modern facility, Madam President, thanks to the Democratic Labour Party. We also refurbished washrooms that were in a mess. You can imagine a hospital on the Barbados Labour Party with washrooms with the various plumbing facilities not in order, Madam President. And this Democratic Labour Party refurbished that. And various proper mirrors, all of the washrooms working, sanitary, Madam President, elevators fixed, Madam President. The whole reception area of the QEH was, refurbished, so you have a receptionist at her desk, soft seating all around. Modernize the QEH hospital, Madam President. These issues make the experience of visitors, staff, and patients at the hospital more humane, Madam President, thanks to the Democratic Labour Party. So I remind Senator Walcott about this, because clearly he has forgotten, Madam President. How dare the Barbados Labour Party criticize this Democratic Labour Party administration in terms of our approach to health care, Madam President. I said one by one, I took copious notes, Madam President. I am not finished yet. The Lions I Care unit, Madam President. I couldn't believe my ears when I heard the opposition Senator Walcott, Senator Dr. Jerome Walcott, medical practitioner, former Minister of Health under the Barbados Labour Party government. You know, Madam President, that the late president of this August chamber, Madam President, the late Sir Branford Tate must be turning in his grave, Madam President, because it was Branford Mayu Tate, the Honorable, as Minister of Health in a Democratic Labour Party administration, that worked hard night and day, travel abroad and liaise with the Lions International to get that grant funding to construct that Lions I Care Center, which the Barbados Labour Party deliberately and callously abandoned when they assumed office in '94, right up to 2008, and the Barbados Labour Party has the audacity to criticize this Democratic Labour Party about that Lions I Care clinic, Madam President? No. Yes, Madam President. So I really am flabbergasted, Madam President. But the public, we have not forgotten, Madam President, and we in the Democratic Labour Party will remind them and the opposition about the abysmal track record of the Barbados Labour Party when they were in office for 14 long years, Madam President. But, Madam President, I also heard Senator Walcott talking about water outages, Madam President. But I remember, see, I'm old enough, just over 50, as Senator Sir Roy mentioned, just over 50. And old enough to remember, in 1994, I was campaign manager for our candidate in St. Joseph during election 1994. And therefore, I had occasion to tour with our minister at the time, Joseph Tudor. He was responsible for water resources, and we toured with our candidate in St. Joseph the various areas of concern in St. Joseph, where I remember back in 1994, on the eve of the general election in 1994, you had issues of drought. And remember, we toured Castle Grant, which is the major reservoir servicing that St. Joseph area, and the water levels were very low. And a few months later, by September, the Barbados Labour Party was returned to office. So you understand, for 14 long years between 1994 and 2008, the Barbados Labour Party did nothing significant to address the water woes of the people in that part of the island in terms of water shortages. Main replacement programs were not properly funded, Madam President, so we had a lot of what they call non-revenue water being lost because of those water mains leaking, Madam President. Barbados Labour Party had 14 long years to do something about it, and they did not. So we inherited that mismanagement and lack of interest by the Barbados Labour Party administration, and we have addressed it. We have secured funding and executed multi-million-dollar mains replacement programs, Madam President, replacing those 100-year mains with modern PVC piping, Madam President. This is what the Barbados Labour Party needs to remember, Madam President. The smart meter program, where we were able to secure funding from Canadian agencies to replace those malfunctioning meters, Madam President. So clearly now revenue would be increased in terms of collection and billing by the Water Authority, Madam President. So I don't know what the opposition is talking about when they seek to criticize us in terms of water. What we have done, Madam President, we have sunk boreholes in the Sweetvale area to augment the water supply in the catchment in terms of the Castle Grant area, and then diverted water from St. Philip and other areas. Innovative, because we have a minister who is a scientist, who sits in the other place, Dr. David Eswick, and he's been able to, been very clinical in terms of his approach to solving these issues, Madam President. I remember going representing the Prime Minister a few months ago at the special launch of a collaborative effort between the City of Bridgetown Credit Union and the Barbados Water Authority, where we're working with private sector partners to make it affordable and accessible in terms of the residents in affected areas for them to be able to purchase water storage tanks that then can be properly outfitted with the various piping and plumbing devices, so that you can have a seamless transition to the potable water supply in their homes whenever there is any drought from reduction in supply from the main Barbados Water Authority supply, Madam President. And this is going rolling out as we go forward, Madam President. So we are being innovative and very responsible in terms of our approach to these issues as they occur, Madam President. Madam President, CAF. We heard, as I said earlier, Madam President, we talked about some of these capital works programs. And I remember the outgoing member of Parliament for St. Michael Northeast, Madam President. And notice they say outgoing member of Parliament for St. Michael Northeast, Madam President. And why you say that? Now you mention it, Madam President. No, I mention it. Is that the Barbados Labour Party would try to give the impression that there are certain seats that are strongholds of the Labour Party that are impregnable by the Democratic Labour Party. But let me remind them and the public, I have here the official general election report of 1986. I'm saying I'm old enough to remember this, Madam President. I spoke on the Democratic Labour Party platform back then as a young Democrat all over the island. And I remember in that 86 general election, this is a document of the 1986 official results published by the Electoral Department, Madam President. And in the constituency of St. Michael Northeast, Leroy Braffett won that seat. He polled 2,533 votes, and the Barbados Labour Party candidate at the time, Mr. Leroy Sisnet, remember, Sweet Boy Leroy on the radio, polled 1,549 votes. So Mr. Leroy Braffett, on behalf of the Democratic Labour Party, won that St. Michael Northeast seat by 984 votes in 1986. So, and he won in every polling district, Madam President. Yes, and I know that Senator Walker, who's my constituent, will be voting for me next election, Madam President. So I thank him for that support. And Mr. Leroy Braffett, Madam President, for the Democratic Labour Party was returned. He won the seat again in 1991, defeating the current outgoing member of Parliament for St. Michael Northeast, Madam President. So the Democratic Labour Party, we are serious. We are not conceding a single seat in the next general election, Madam President. So as I was saying, Madam President, I remember the outgoing member of Parliament for St. Michael Northeast and the Barbados Labour Party talking about, encouraging the Minister of Finance to engage in a stimulus program. Because remember, President Obama was President of the United States, and that is what they were talking about. Stimulus. And what has the Democratic Labour Party done? We may not use that word, but we have effectively been able to secure funding to build the infrastructure, generate jobs in Barbados, Madam President. I talk about the funding from the Canadians in terms of the smart meter, IDB funding, means replacement, and CAF, the Latin American Development Bank, Madam President, because this is a bank based in Venezuela with member countries all throughout Latin America, just as how we have the Inter-American Development Bank, IADB. And you know we've been graduated from the, and by the World Bank, as we've, you know, as our per capita income has increased and our standard of living has increased, they've penalized us by graduating, so we don't have access readily to concessionary loan financing from the World Bank. We were able to get a couple loans in recent years to support the HIV fight, Madam President, but in terms of the infrastructural concessionary loans to build schools and other developmental projects that we were able to access from the World Bank in decades gone by have all dried up. So CAF, this Democratic Labour Party administration, has been able to secure membership of CAF, which was being touted by the Barbados Labour Party when they were in office, but they were in office for 14 long years, from 1994 to 2008, and were not able to secure enough financing that Barbados would be able to gain membership of CAF. But this Democratic Labour Party administration, with limited resources, we were able to join up CAF, thereby giving us access to over $200 million in terms of concessionary, US that is, concessionary loans to develop our infrastructure, Madam President. So when Senator Walker criticizes us about the roads, Madam President, but out of CAF, as we speak, negotiations are being held where we are accessing loan financing to support our road construction and road repair program, Madam President. As I said, over $200 million US in total we'll be able to access in the short to medium term, Madam President. So then we're able to be in a better position then to finance. You know, we haven't finalized each project as yet. It's an ongoing process, but I'm just looking at some projects that are, you know, feasible, Madam President, in terms of the mandate of CAF, because they're supporting primarily capacity building, infrastructural projects, Madam President. So look, we have shovel ready, Madam President, as we speak. We have plans, you know, architectural drawings made up to for a new minibus and ZR terminus at what we call Seaview, which is just to the west of the Barbados Post Office at Cheapside, Madam President. So, as I said, shovel ready. So again, you know, in our third term, these are projects that then we can be able to, you know, access funding, be it CAF, be it IDB, what have you, Madam President. But at least we have CAF, we are members of CAF, so it is feasible for us to access those funding. And what will happen, as I said, the drawings are done and everything, we're just finalizing the funding. So what does that do, Madam President? It means now that the people in St. Michael, Northeast, in Spooners Hill, along Codrington and higher up, Madam President, there would be area, Butler's Avenue and so on, Madam President, they would be able to get a Jackson bus, Jackson's ZR bus, Madam President, or minibus from that Seaview terminus, Madam President, without having to wait exposed to the elements in terms of rain and sun, Madam President, and of course, those who live in Jackson as well, Madam President. So this is something that this Democratic Labour Party administration would be in a position to roll out in our third term, Madam President. Of course, just to the southeast of us, you have the old Fairchild Street Market, which the Barbados Labour Party left in a dilapidated state with all the asbestos roofing. This Democratic Labour Party, your humble servant as MP for the city, we had to work and get that removed safely, Madam President. And now that site is there, accessible, that we, again, architectural drawings have been made up by the hard-working officers in the Ministry of Transport and Works, where we can have a multi-million-dollar, tens of millions of dollars in terms of an integrated complex, replacing the current Fairchild Street bus stand and having a seamless, transition of commuters from the bus stand to the new market facility. One multi-use, multi-purpose complex serving as a vendor's market, and then the other section being a modern bus terminus, Madam President, and also provision for additional vending stalls for vendors in the immediate vicinity. Of course, this is not no idle boast, Madam President, because this Democratic Labour Party administration and our current Minister of Transport and Works, we are rolling out as we speak a multi-million-dollar refurbishment of the river van terminus, Madam President. So my good people in St. Michael Northeast taking the Bush Hall van or going to Waterford and Bank Hall, Madam President, number 6 ZR van, Madam President, they will be able to go into that terminus and not exposed to the elements as left by the Barbados Labour Party. They were in office for 14 long years. Election after election, they told and they promised and they did not deliver. Left the people there in squalor, Madam President. Poor lighting, flooded when there's any rain. But as we speak, we've improved lighting, and the terminus is nearing completion, Madam President, thanks to this caring Democratic Labour Party administration, Madam President. Thank you. Oh, the time is flying, Madam President. I can go on and on till morning with just tearing to pieces the unsubstantiated and really inappropriate criticism of the Barbados Labour Party in this estimates debate, Madam President. Madam President, let me just go, since we have limited time, to look at what we are doing in the Ministry of Housing and Lands. I, Madam President, served as Minister of State within the Ministry of Housing and Lands, and so I have some intimate knowledge of the good work of the Democratic Labour Party since we assumed office in 2008 in terms of providing housing solutions to our people, Madam President. Let me start, Madam President, with the whole issue of the 20-year program. Now, you know the Barbados Labour Party, they are seeking to criticize this as some election gimmick, Madam President. But there's no election gimmick. We promised it, and we are delivering, Madam President. Currently, we have today offered 3,032 residents in these housing estates throughout the island who qualify, because you know you have to be, you must have been occupying the unit for at least 20 years, and of course in good standing in terms of rental payments. So 3,032 people have been offered this, what we call 20-year free transfer program. Having reached that 20-year threshold, this Democratic Labour Party administration, unlike the Barbados Labour Party, we are offering these qualifying tenants free transfer of title. In other words, they don't have to pay a red cent more. The title would be, title of ownership of these units would be transferred free of cost to these residents. As I said, this is in contrast to the approach of the Barbados Labour Party when they're in office, because under that, when they were in office, they actually charged these people additional funds, thousands of dollars then they had to pay in order to gain access. So we're saying you've paid your rent faithfully for 20 years, so you really deserve that. You have already paid for it effectively, so it should be title in terms of ownership should be transferred free of cost, Madam President. We've had challenges, Madam President, which are really challenges that were unavoidable in terms of you had to go through the necessary engineering and land surveying exercises. We also had to, so you had to transfer clear title, so any encumbrances in terms of add-ons and so on had to be addressed, and we effected the necessary legislation to deal with that, Madam President. And had to find the money to pay the land surveyors. All couldn't be done immediately, so it's a continuous process, Madam President. So this is no red herring. This is nothing done just for the election exercise. This has been an ongoing project over the last few years, Madam President, and we are reaping significant success, Madam President. We had to obviously effect the necessary electrical upgrades, Madam President, and this is what we've been doing. But in the meantime, residents who qualify have not had to pay any rent month by month, so they effective that saving under the Barbados Labour Party. They would have had to be paying rent continuously and then paying additional sums to gain access to this, to the property. So to date, engineering assessments have been done at Haynesville 78, Gore Hill 20, Maynards 25, the Ivy, Watton, Rosemont, Wildy, and so on. And during the period under review, which is January to December 31st, 2017, 41 units have been conveyed, and to date, 246 units have been fully conveyed, and several additional conveyances are at an advanced stage of preparation for completion. So to date, units conveyed at Bagatelle 13, at Bonnet, Britain Hill 78, at Eden Lodge 4, at Farm Gardens 1, at Gore Hill 19, at Haynesville 45, at Lamming St. Joseph 7, at Maynards 6, at the Ivy 46, and Rosemont Deacons Road 27, Madam President. A grand total of 246 NHC rental units have been conveyed, fully conveyed to these qualifying residents, Madam President. And of course, Madam President, this is ongoing. We also would have had the challenge of the vesting of these properties, because again, to effect that clear title, these Crown lands, which were not vested in the National Housing Corporation, we had to go through both houses of Parliament. We would have dealt with them one by one here, the vesting of these Crown lands in the NHC to enable the clear transfer of title, Madam President. So this exercise would have taken time, but as you can see, results are actually being seen, Madam President, as hundreds of Barbadians have been able to get free title to these NHC units that they have been renting for 20 years or more, Madam President. So this Democratic Labour Party, we have promised and we are delivering, Madam President, as we speak. Madam President, we also have been engaging in our various housing every last person initiatives, Madam President, where in this program, it seeks to satisfy the demand of Barbadians by providing affordable solutions for customers earning less than $4,500 gross income, Madam President. And the aim of the program is to provide affordable homes at prices ranging from $99,000 to $150,000 for a property, and to sell land separately at prices ranging from $17,500 to $35,000, Madam President. So at Constant in phase 2, that is in St. George, the NHC has completed the construction of 33 houses, and allocations are approximately 75% complete for both lots and houses. So 22 houses have been, the sales have been completed, and 26 lots. Lancaster in St. James, 42 houses. The NHC has been able to complete the sale for 29 properties, and we are waiting certificates of compliance for the remaining 8 houses based on satisfying conditions imposed by the Drainage Division. And the securing of these certificates will allow us to proceed with the sale of those aforementioned 8 units. And of course, at Lancaster Phase 2, 43 houses have been conveyed, and the 11 commercial lots at Lancaster Phase 2 have been completed, and the corporation is in the process of allocating and conveying these lots. To date, 4 of these lots have been conveyed. Madam President, at Parish Land in St. Philip. Thank you very much. Madam President, at Parish Land in St. Philip, this is just below District C Police Station, 110 houses have been completed to date, and there are 7 houses at various stages of completion, and 19 houses have been, the sale of 19 houses has been completed to date, Madam President. And at River View St. Philip, this project consists of 17 starter houses, and road works have been completed, and the corporation has completed 9 houses. 8 houses are under construction and are to be completed by June 30th this year, Madam President. I will also now turn to the whole issue of the 500 lots program, but before I do that, very quickly, we also in the process of joint ventures with the private sector. For example, Madam President, at Durance, we are also working with the private sector there to in a joint venture where a model house has already been constructed, and the sites and services are in place. A number of houses are at foundation level and some at ring beam level. So this is an exciting middle income project in the St. James area to provide housing solutions to Barbadians, Madam President. But since time is against me, I will also mention that we are providing lots for middle income at Deanstown, 45 residential lots. 28 of these lots have been sold. And at West Terrace, St. James, with 11 residential lots, the National Housing Corporation has completed the sale of 8 of these lots, Madam President. And at Deanstown Heights, and I visited this site, Madam President, the sites and services are in place, roads and utilities, and it has a wonderful view of the West Coast from an elevated perspective. And 148 upper middle income residential lots are available, and the National Housing Corporation has commenced the allocation and sale of these units. And as I was saying, at West Terrace Durance, there's 74 middle income houses, and this is a joint venture between the NHC and ADC Building and Maintenance Limited. Roadworks are 85% complete, and 3 houses at foundation level, 8 at floor slab level, and 5 houses at ring beam level, with 1 with walls in progress and 1 with the roof completed. So as I conclude, Madam President, I just want to look at the 500 lots program. Again, the Barbados, they will probably try to poo-poo this, but this was the brainchild of the late Prime Minister Thompson, where he said, listen, people are in dire need of housing solutions, since the Barbados Labour Party did not aggressively provide the necessary housing solutions when they were in office for 14 years. So to expedite the process, we said, well, let us go around the country and identify lots adjacent to roadways already in existence where the sites and services, utilities and so on are available, so then we can sell the lots, and then the purchasers will be able to get ahead in construction. And so for this was in our 2008 manifesto to provide 500 lots at $5 per square foot for low-income earners, persons earning less than $2,500 per month. And I can give you a report that today at Clifton St. Philip, there are 19 lots. Sales instructions have been, settled for 6. And in Woodbourne St. Philip, 10 lots, and 5 have been, the sales of 5 have been completed. At Branchbury St. Joseph, there are 21 lots in this 500 lots program, and the completed sales is 19. At Guinea St. John, 12 lots available, and sales have been completed for 11 of these lots. At Vineyard St. Philip, 36 lots available, sales instructions for 29, and 6 sales have been completed. At Todd's 1, St. George, 15 lots are available. At Cherry Grove, St. John, 13 lots are available. The sale of 12 of these has been completed. At Pool, St. John, 29 lots available. All 29 lots have been sold. And if you pass up at Pool, St. John, you would see, Madam President, people actually haven't built their homes thanks to this Democratic Labour Party initiative, the 500 lots program. At Easy Hall, St. Joseph, 8 lots available. Sales have been completed for 5 of them. At Henley, St. John, 37 lots available, 25. The sale of 25 of these lots has been completed. Brighton, St. Yes, Madam President. Brighton, St. George, and St. George South, I believe, 35 lots available, and 21 of these lots have been sold. And the residents in Brighton, I have some friends up there, and they told me that Minister, the next representative for St. George South, Senator Barsuku, was able to work with the Minister of Housing to identify those lots for her good people in St. George South, Madam President. And finally, at 40 acres in St. Thomas, 21 lots are available.